Hi everyone, welcome to Harry's Kitchen. What I'll be doing on my channel is giving you weekly recipes that I have perfected over the years. Today I'm going to show you how to make the most perfect fluffy pizza base for you to put into either your pizza oven or your just home oven. Now what you need to do is start with the yeast first. For every cup of flour I use roughly 1 gram of yeast. I prefer the instant yeast. That's what I usually keep on hand, so it works for me. What I do, I also need to add a tablespoon of sugar. We need to get the water roughly at about between 38 and 40 degrees. 39 is where I've got it today, roughly. We add it into the yeast. We stir up the yeast together, give it a nice little stir and put aside and let it rest for around between 5 and 10 minutes until it starts fluffing up. In another cup, what I do, I get about a tablespoon and a half of salt. I'm using Himalayan salt. You can use normal salt, doesn't really matter. Add in some of the water, which is sitting around 39 degrees. Just give it a bit of a mix just to dilute it a little bit. Add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I use extra virgin. It's got so much more flavour. Put that aside because we're going to add that to the flour mixture a bit later on. Now, after about 5 or 10 minutes, you can see that the yeast has risen, and that's what we're looking for. What we do, we get our dough mixer. I've got a dough mixer. I'm just starting to measure out 10 cups of flour, which I've already done. I've put it into the dough mixer, and to that, I add the yeast mixture with the sugar and the water. Once I've done that, I just start washing the bowl out with a bit of the warm water that we've got as well, just to make sure that we don't waste any of the yeast and it all goes into the mixture. Once you've done that, just add the rest of the water that we've got. Roughly, the water is for about 10 cups of flour. I've worked out to be about 1.2 litres of water. So if you're going to halve the mixture, just halve everything again. Now, once you've put that in, just start your dough mixer, or you can do it by hand as well. It doesn't really matter. It can be done either way. If you haven't got a dough mixer, you can mix it by hand as well. Now, slowly add the water in as you're going. Don't add it all at once because you don't want to be adding flour to the mix. You'd rather add a bit of water just to get it to the right consistency as opposed to adding flour once you've added too much water. So what I'm looking for in my dough to get it nice and fluffy is making sure that the dough is soft on the hand and has a little bit of a stick. Not too much of a stick, but just a small amount. Now, this is the cup that we reserved before when we added the olive oil and the salt. Now, I've added that in there as well. I'm adding the last bit of water just to give it a nice mix and get everything in there. So add that to your dough mixer. Let it all stir up nicely together. Now, as you can see, the sides are starting to pull away, so starting to take all the dough and getting it nice and soft. But as you can see, I can still see from looking at it that it's not quite as soft as what I would like it. The softer you can push the dough, the better it is. So I really push the boundaries when I'm making my dough. I like to make sure that it's really soft to the hand. So that's why I'm adding a little bit more water in it now. Let it nicely mix together. As you can see now, the dough is nice and soft and pliable. You can see that the mixture is getting softer. It's pulling away from the dough mixer, which is a good indication. Now, as I'm touching it, you can see it's nice and soft, but it does need just a little bit more mixing. So I'm just going to add a bit more water. So you just add a little bit at a time just to get it to the right consistency where you feel it's nice and soft. And that's the key to pizza dough making. It has to be nice and soft. So as you can see, the dough mix is starting to pull away again. The dough is getting softer. So we'll just wait for the dough mixer to do its job. Just do another check. For me, as you can feel, it just needs a little bit more. So I'm just adding a touch of water at a time, not too much water, because it'll make it too wet, and then the dough, you'll need to add flour, and that's one thing you don't want to do. So just make sure that it's nice and soft. And as you can see now, that dough is just perfect. It just feels right to the touch. Yeah, and that's what you got to play with. There's no exact measurement. Sometimes the dough, even flours are different. Even though I'm using a 00 flour, which is the best one to use, which is designed for pizza making. Try not to use just normal all-purpose flour. It won't work as well. So you need 00 flour. So what I'm doing now is weighing them up to around 220 grams per dough ball. For me, that's the trays that I'm using are around 14 inches. So I need between 220 and 240 grams of dough is where I make my pizzas. So now I'm just rolling it in with one hand. Just keep on rolling it over. Just tuck it in together with your hands. And what I'm going to do now is put them on a tray. I have sprayed the trays with a bit of olive oil. No flour. It just doesn't work as good. So I've just sprayed it with straight olive oil. And what I'm going to do for the next 2 to 3 hours at least, I'll let them double up in size. And what I'll do, we'll come back and show you the end result with the dough. So once again, just tuck it in together, roll it up, and then just with one hand or two, doesn't really matter, whatever you feel comfortable with, just roll them into little balls and make sure they're nice and uniformed. So just go back and forth like clockwise. Yep. Use those muscles, people. And then just shape them up together, straight on the tray, and then just cover them up with a bit of cling film. Or if you've got a plastic bucket with a lid, as long as it's food grade safe, you can put them in there as well. It doesn't really matter. And just put them in a warm place and just let them sit for a good 2 to 3 hours, at least 3 hours. I like to leave them. Now, cover them up with just a sort of damp cloth or just a cloth. Make sure there's no air coming into the dough that you've created. Now, as you can see, they have doubled up in size. So basically, I'm spraying my trays. So from this point, what I do, I just get a spatula. I start pulling away the dough nice and softly. As you can see, the dough is just perfect, so soft. And then from there, I just put it straight into some flour. I just put a bit of flour on a tray, I leave it down nicely, and then from this point I try not to touch the ends. I want the ends to stay nice and fluffy, keep the air in the dough. So as you can see, I'm using gravity to pull the dough down. So with your hands, the insert of your hands, just keep on playing with the dough until it opens up, and then from this point we'll just keep on making sure that we don't take the air out of the ends. I want the ends to be nice and solid so we can put the ingredients and they won't fall out when you put them in the pizza oven. I'll be using a wood oven pizza for this, but even in your normal oven you can still do. See how that nice air is maintained around the edges? That's what you want to try and do when you're creating a pizza base. Look at that, absolutely beautiful, nice and fluffy. And look at the air pockets that I've created, absolutely beautiful. When that goes in the pizza oven, that will just puff up beautifully. In the next video, guys, I will be showing you how to make the perfect pizza sauce and the toppings that I add to my pizzas. I hope you like my first video. Please like and subscribe. For more delicious recipes, see you next time. Take care.